Just hanging out for a minute here. We're live a little while ago, and then my wife called, and I thought I could just take it really quick, but it ended up being a conversation. So I ended that video, and now we're back. Um, so what that was about was I was selected as a 2024 Pat Tillman Scholar, going back to school for my MFA in photography at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And they are partners with the NFL, or the NFL is one of the biggest partners of the Pat Tillman Foundation. And every so often there's some kind of cool opportunities that pop up. And I got an email this morning about the chance to be on the field and be one of the people that helps carry the flag across the field up at the Seattle Seahawks versus the Miami Dolphins. And I'm sorry, I'm about to cry. I've never been to an NFL game, and I've always said that I would love for my first game to actually be the Dolphins and to see the Dolphins play. And so even though it's an invitation from the Seahawks, I would be there and be very grateful. Don't worry, I'd just be wearing a Tillman shirt, so they wouldn't know, that I'm there to root for the Dolphins. But either way, the thing is that it's on my son's second birthday, and so I forwarded that to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, look at this, but look at the date. It's a bummer. Maybe there'll be something that comes around another time." And then that's what she was calling me about. She's like, "What? You've got to go. I want to go. What can we do? We'll move Micah's birthday." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what that conversation ended up being." And then she's like, "Well, I don't know if I can." And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to go if you can't go." And then she goes, "What? You're going regardless. It doesn't matter if I can't go." And so that's what that whole conversation was about. And I decided to go ahead and start this video over. So what we had done in the previous video, we had just kind of caught up through the first 25 pages and just over some highlights that were in here that I had made. And now we are going to start with page 25, going on to case 2, Carolyn. And the first 25 pages are available back in the videos, so you'll be able to go back and see those. And so let's get started, because now I'm running out of time, because I've got homework to do for that photography program, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing now. But now that we've restarted, we're pushing in a little bit to that because of what? Slight distraction, but it's all good. We're good here. So case number 2, Carolyn. Carolyn DeVille came to me. See, and then that again. So Carolyn DeVille, and they make up the names in here in this book. So right off the bat, this is probably an ADD thing. I don't know, or how many people do this, but I'm also like slightly like, did you really have to make it a name like that would do this to me? I was like, Carolyn DeVille. Carolyn DeVille. I mean, like, did you guys have to put a name that was spark off a song from one of the most famous Disney movies into my brain? Okay, so anyway, Carolyn DeVille came to see me one afternoon just to chat. When she made the appointment, she told me over the phone, long distance, in her rich Southern accent, "Honey, I know what I've got. I just want you to sit there and nod and listen." Carolyn strode into my office, all 5 feet 10 inches of her, wearing a pastel orange chiffon dress with a white sash and a beige broad-brimmed hat. She wore peach-colored lipstick and smelled of a perfume that immediately filled the room, very pleasantly, but not subtly. Like her perfume, Carolyn filled the room quickly. "You don't mind if I do this?" she asked, lighting up a Vantage? Is that a type of cigarette? Exhaling smoke, she opened her blue eyes wide and looked right at me. "I feel like we're old friends. I've heard you speak. I've read some of your articles. We both have ADD. I'm a therapist, you're a therapist. Lord, we're practically neighbors, except I'm from 3,000 miles away in California. California? Okay. I was like, wait a minute, that got me confused. California, I asked? I would have guessed, from my accent, you would have guessed somewhere in the South, and you would have been right since I grew up in New Orleans. But marriage number 2 took me to the Golden Gate, and I've never been back. You said on the phone you just wanted to chat. Well, I've been a psychologist for 20 years now, and I've been specializing in ADD for the past 10. I've never told anyone my story, and I thought you'd be a good person to start with, since I liked you from the way you talked. We agreed to have a few appointments. She was in town with her husband at a convention for his business. She'd be here for a few days. As her story unfolded, I had to marvel at her resilience and ingenuity. I'm an orphan, or at least I used to be. My mother got pregnant, and Catholic teenage girls in Louisiana in the 30s didn't have abortions. So here I am. I was adopted when I was 2. What a mismatch my mother and I were. She was a wonderful lady, and I love her dearly, but she was so ladylike and organized, and I wasn't. My mama couldn't civilize me, try as she might. I sat with my legs apart, I bit my nails, I let my skirt ride up, I got dirty all the time. I was a real pigpen. My first vivid memory is running away from Summation Bible School at age 4. It was so boring. Jimmy Tunduris and I tiptoed out the back door and ran down the dirt road toward the river. After a little while, Jimmy got scared and went back, but not me. I wandered all over town until I fell down asleep. They found me that afternoon in a ditch by the side of the road. Did Mama give me what for? Must have wondered why she ever went to that orphanage. My next best memory is sitting up on top of the water tower. Must not have been a day over 6. Once I learned how to climb on top of that water tower, I did it all the time. Sometimes after I learned to read, I'd put a book in my teeth and climb up and sit all afternoon reading. Can you believe it? Whenever I drive past the water tower today, I shiver. They're very high. Back then, I remember dangling my feet over the side and looking down saying, ooh-wee. So that friend over there is Stellar's Jay. Hey, buddy. Hey, bud. It's pretty loud. Oh, and then this is Max. Didn't anybody tell you not to go up there, I asked? Nobody knew I did, she answered in a whisper. Oh, nobody knew I did, she answered in a whisper, as if it were supposed to remain secret to this day. Oh, I was a devil of a kid, or so Mama said, but she loved me too. It's just that I was always into things. Saturdays, oh, I hated Saturdays. Some inexplicable uneasiness would come over me on Saturdays. I didn't know why then, but looking back, I can see that it was because on Saturday, all my sins of the week would be discovered. Mama was a school teacher and too busy to notice during the week. But come Saturday, she'd inspect my clothes and find that one white cotton glove I needed for church was missing, or was filthy dirty, or that I'd torn the sash from my dress, or that a bunch of clothes were missing. I was in the habit of giving away clothes to the kids at the orphanage. I didn't know that I was adopted, so I didn't know why I gave my clothes away, but I did. Mama would despair. And your father, I asked? Oh, Daddy was like the Pied Piper. He loved children and he loved me, which was lucky because I needed all the love I could get, especially after I started school and after Warren was born. After all the trouble Mama had getting pregnant, what did she do but produce a menopause baby? Warren, my brother. He was an angel as much as I was a devil. They might as well have put a halo over his head. And school? Well, my first memory of school is getting spanked by Mrs. Kimball for not being able to lie still on my pallet. I never did lie still, or sit still for that matter. I was slow to learn how to read, but once I did, I was a voracious reader. Little Women, The Secret Garden, Hans Brinker, these were my books. On top of that water tower, under the kitchen table, wherever I could find a spot to be left alone, I'd tug a book out of my pocket and read. Math was a disaster. They had flashcards and one student would pass them out to all of us. I used to save my dessert to bribe whoever was doing the passing to give me the easy cards. I especially liked the 0 cards. 1 + 0 equals? I always despaired when they had a dessert I couldn't sequester in my pocket or under my dress like pudding. Even pie, I got pretty good at hiding. Well, you do sound like a happy kid in spite of it all, I said. I've always been happy. I think it's temperament. And it's the luckiest thing in the world. Even when I had every reason not to be, I was happy. I always found a way. Once in second grade, I was being punished for having smacked Nancy Smith by being told to stand behind a table away from the other kids. This was on a morning parents were coming through to visit, so it was supposed to be particularly embarrassing and humiliating for me to have to stand off to the side behind this table. Well, what did I do? The table came about up to my midsection, so I just rubbed up against it and let my mind drift away as everybody passed through. I'm sure no one noticed, and I'm sure I hardly even knew that I was masturbating right there in public view within the second grade classroom. I always did talk too much, Carolyn said, as if she thought she still did. But I don't think so. Oh, but I didn't think so. I loved hearing her story, particularly the way she told it, from incident to incident, all in the thickest and softest Southern voice. The hardest thing about it all was getting teased so much. I was so reactive. All my emotions were on the surface. Someone would make a face at me and I'd stick my tongue out right back. Someone would whisper something about me and I'd jump on their back. Also, I cried really easily. Someone would hurt my feelings and boo-hoo, the tears would come. Well, you know how kids come in on that. So I was always getting teased. Daddy would coach me on how to ignore it, but I never could. In third grade, I beat up 2 boys on the playground, and that was a time when girls simply did not fight, let alone fight boys. Mama was mortified, but Daddy, he took me aside and told me he was proud. Poor Mama, she got mortified a lot. In 6th grade, my teacher got so fed up looking at my messy desk strewn with bits of paper, balled up gum, a bent fork, and even old desserts, that she took a few brown paper bags and emptied it all for me to take home to show my mother after school. Mama was mortified once again. She tried so hard to make me a lady. I wanted to peroxide my hair, but she said no. What did I do? I was such a slob. I took lipstick and tried to streak my hair with it instead. It just became a greasy mess. I was forever stuffing my chest with rolled up socks, except I didn't do that very skillfully either. One day a sock popped out of my dress in 10th grade science class. You can imagine the reaction. Somehow, though, I got through. All my reading must have paid off because I scored high on achievement tests and got a scholarship to college. At the time, I was amazed I did so well on the tests, as was everybody else. There were even this whispers that I must have cheated. But knowing what I know, I think I did well because I was so motivated I went off into one of those hyper-focused states that people with ADD can go into. So they do talk about hyper-focus in here already. For once, Mama wasn't mortified, and I scraped my way through college and got into graduate school, which I did part-time since I was having babies. Then I quit school completely for a few years before going back and finishing my PhD and becoming the woman you see sitting before you now. You never knew you had attention deficit disorder, I asked. Never. Not until I diagnosed myself well after graduate school. What do you think? Do I fit the picture? Yes, you surely do, I said. How did you feel when you discovered you had ADD all along? Oh, just this huge relief. At last there was a name for it, especially all the emotional reactivity that got me teased so much. The emotional reactivity. Yeah, I think that's so tough, is managing those reactions, right? I had thought I was a typical female hysteric or something. Plus everything else, the not sitting, the going up the water tower, the fights, being a mess, having trouble in school, things fit into place. The best thing was getting a name for it. I'd pretty much figured out how to handle it by the time I found out I had it. Well, why did you want to see me? I asked. To get a second opinion. I've only had myself to confirm my diagnosis. Well, it sounds like a pretty classic ADD to me. We could get some testing to further confirmation, but you could have done that already. And I think you know you have ADD. Are you sure there isn't some other reason you came here? I asked. Carolyn, who had told her story virtually without missing a beat or coming up for air, paused. She took her hat off, which revealed her whole face from broad forehead to pointed, definite chin, and she took out her light brown hair, and she shook out her light brown hair. Tall, elegant, secure, she surprised me by what she said next. I wanted you to tell me I'd done a good job, she said softly. That sounds infantile, I'm sure, but you can't imagine what an effort it is, what an effort it's been. Actually, I thought perhaps you would know how much it's taken since you see so many people like me. Not many people like you, I said. You never got any help along the way, and you've overcome your obstacles just by intuition and persistence. You've done an amazing job, Carolyn. You've done very well. You should feel proud. Thank you, she said. I needed to hear that from someone who really knew. Carolyn's story is remarkable in some ways and representative in others. As a child, her symptoms were typical: hyperactivity, thrill-seeking, trouble in school, emotional intensity, and impulsivity. She also had many of the positive qualities that are often not mentioned when one hears about ADD: spunk, resilience, persistence, charm, creativity, hidden intellectual talent. What was remarkable was that she was able to develop her talents without any special help. She did not get buried under the teasing she received. She did not lose her positive sense of who she was or who she could be. In many ways, the most dangerous aspect of undiagnosed and untreated ADD is the assault to self-esteem that usually occurs. Whatever talents these people may have, they often never get to use them because they give up, feeling lost and stupid. Carolyn is a wonderful example of someone who prevailed. Good job, Carolyn. Heck yeah. Hope my accent, my little Southern Carolyn accent wasn't too distracting, but I couldn't resist. Actually, I feel like I do better when I am, kind of playing a character like that anyway. So that was fun. Yeah, this is, again, very relatable. I'm going to highlight this right here. In many ways, the most dangerous aspect of undiagnosed and untreated ADD is the assault to self-esteem. Whatever talents these people may have, they often never get to use them. They never get to use them because they give up feeling lost and stupid. So that's funny. So again, talking about the voices, right? Just doing a character. So I lived in LA for years, and I was at going to the Groundlings Improv School, and I did well when I was there, but then things happened where I left LA, and it's so funny because of just how many different things that I got into while I was there, that again, all like ADD related, just jumping into this thing and that thing and then derailing that thing. And then I always feel like that I want to get back and do something with my voices somehow, even if it's another channel on here. Even if I'm just reading children's books, right? And then I'm like reading them, and then like have its own channel that's just for kids, or doing TikToks with voices and like inviting people on and that have accents different than my own, right? And seeing if I can replicate their accent. I think that would be fun, right? And especially because then it'd be hard to say, hey, like whatever accent I'm trying to do is making fun of something, but rather like, no, I want to see if I can do it. And then so the people would be there with me, and I'm like trying to mimic their accent. I think that would be fun. Also doing, offering like just collabs on animation, like student films, or anyone just doing things on YouTube that are looking for voices, just things to do that, because I feel like that's a talent or whatever, that there's some type of natural thing there, and build on that. But then again, I'm like, well, no, that's silly and blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Focus on this. And then just like the photography, that's where going back to school for it was kind of like my way to force myself into the accountability and commitment of trying to make that real. My photography, to me, is one of the things that I have felt has been something that I can create that I actually enjoy. So I've got the like drawing, painting, clay, any other type of creative thing. I always feel like I'm not good enough at it, and it's frustrating, and I want to create something. But the photography, I'm like that's the thing that I feel good about. I'm like, I like this. I am happy with the results of this. But can I do that? Can I make that my career? I think that I could make it part of one, like as one revenue stream. It might not be able to be the main thing, but it also inspires the writing, right? So I think, because what I'm getting at here, I guess, still is that I still kind of give up on these things, because it says, again, whatever talents these people may have, they often never get to use them because they give up feeling lost and stupid. Yeah, so I guess that just that feeling of being lost and stupid, and like also, you know, I get this self-awareness of, am I just, you know, being grandiose, you know, like am I on some type of manic thing when I'm thinking about some of, you know, doing these things? Like, can I do this? Yes, of course I can. This is totally viable. Or is that just some weird inflated sense of self or importance, or not importance, but just of inflated belief of something being better than it really is? And then but then I'm like, wait a minute, or is that the ego voice that's saying, that's just trying to sabotage things, right? And it's like, no, hey, bro, trust yourself. You are that good. Keep doing these things. Like, you are good enough. And I think somewhere, I don't know if it was in this book, but somewhere I saw someone talking about just ADHD. One of the hardest things about it is that you might be really good at certain things, but you find out that the world celebrates, or at least like the capitalism, maybe perhaps, celebrates consistent mediocrity more than inconsistent good things. Like, if you can just be good enough to create something, you know, or do complete something at a mediocre level, but just continue to be there instead of being like this is the better way to go than to be like down here and then up and then down here and up. And whatever. I don't know. That also might just be someone, you know, with ADD, just trying to make themselves feel better. But okay, so that's through page 31 here. The next one's Maria. I've got to get more of my homework done before I go pick up my daughter, so I'm going to have to just end. I feel like that's a good spot to end, and we will pick up again. Thanks, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope this is helpful. I know for me, this is actually serving as an accountability process for me to continue to read this. There are 300 pages more. Let's see here. Where's the actual end here? 355 pages. Yeah, 355. So at this rate, it takes 10 times the amount. And what is this taking us? A week so far. So 10 weeks, 3 months, you know, ish. If you we can do this. We'll see. A lot of changes will be happening in that amount of time, and hopefully we can continue to keep this up and then get through this. Hopefully we can stay focused and not be so driven to the distraction. Okay. We will see you on another day.